The first course competency is to design or adapt relevant learning experiences to promote and demonstrate student learning and creativity. The artifact that I chose for this is my unit plan for high performance learning students to design a capstone project. In this project, what I found is that students were engaged in authentic learning and higher level thinking and creativity. The portion of this project that I think had the highest success was where students were involved in collecting data on a traffic problem, an unsafe situation where cars speed outside of one of our entrances at Longfellow. Students really took this project to a higher level and presented their data findings to the school board, and this upcoming Monday are presenting to the city council. They have also met with the mayor, and the mayor invited them to present at the city council. So the students in this, I think the most important part had to do with the real world learning, and that is something that I think is a continued area of growth. I think that when students find meaning in the work that they are doing, they are more engaged and the learning experience is more relevant. I found that the students were able to use digital tools in order to effectively communicate their message and to present their information when they presented to both the mayor and the school board. So the survey that they were able to create really helped them to organize and present their information, and that shows how teaching students to use a digital tool can really have a high impact on their ability to clearly present their information. I really feel there's a lot of area of growth for more community partnerships between the school district of La Crosse and with other organizations such as the universities and engineers and other people in the community that have a lot of experiences and information that our students can participate in and contribute to. The second course competency is to create a quality product in print, video, and digital environments. And the artifact that I chose for this standard is a video that I made to present and invite students to compete in a design challenge innovation showdown that I am co-organizing with a few other staff members and our high performance learning coordinator for the district, called Innovation Showdown. And the idea behind Innovation Showdown is that students will get together and compete. They will be put in groups with students from other schools, and we're hoping to have a mentor from some different that work in the community to work with the students as well. And so that is in the works for putting that event together. And I honestly am not completely happy with my video that I made. I think that there is a lot of room for growth in it. I think at this point in its creation, it's not an item that would genuinely get students excited about the competition, but I do think that involving students in the creation of the video is a great place to start with having that be a higher quality product. I think that when students are the ones that are involved in designing of things, that you have a higher level of engagement for them. So for the targeting a defined audience, I think that when you are wanting your audience to be students, the more student involvement that you can have in that message making and promotion of something, that the higher the student engagement will be. I think that in terms of the quality of communication, one of the biggest challenges that I came across was with the quality of the recording. In my LMC at Longfellow, I do have two green screen stations set up that are used for recording, and I think that at this point there's work that needs to be done to have better sound equipment set up. And then also I have some nice tripods, but they're missing some parts to make them really functional for iPad stands. Our students have one-to-one iPads. So making these stations really help enable students to get better quality with their own communication. And I think that one of my roles as an LMC director is to be able to communicate clearly through my own video media in that environment, but then to be able to really use my knowledge to set up those opportunities for students to be able to effectively communicate and create their own quality products. I am in some ways the person that has that knowledge and is facilitating. So that, I think there's room for growth in that, but there's also a lot of exciting ideas in my initial product that I created for this upcoming event. Course competency number 3 states that I have the ability and demonstrate the ability to address issues of intellectual property right, copyright, and licensing, and privacy and security of students and resources. For this artifact, I chose my copyright brochure that I created. And with this brochure, I found that it really did help me to think through a lot of the issues and questions and how I would like to present that information to students and also with teachers. Did make progress this year with helping teachers to better understand how they can use movies in their classroom. And we were able, as a school district, to purchase a SWANK license. And that was something that I advocated for to my principal. And I was happy that that did finally come through. And I think that that is a security of resources issue, in that it helps teachers and staff members know that when they are using a resource, that they are doing it through the appropriate channels, and it really just does create a better culture around copyright. Our district likes to tell our library media specialists that we are not the copyright police, but I do think that we have a role to really create and help support a culture that does go through appropriate channels, and that we are the ones that are instructing about intellectual property rights and engaging our students and staff in those questions. I did just this past week teach a copyright for images lesson to my 8th grade students who are involved in creating a book that they will go to the local elementary school and they will read. And within that book, one of the issues with copyright is that they are going to be needing to use a variety of images with that project. So I didn't use the brochure as I created it, but made a simplified different sites that they could go to in order to find copyright free images in the Creative Commons. And within that, and I've been talking a lot in this podcast about the importance of collaboration with teachers and with being on the same page, and did have an interesting discussion with a 7th grade teacher who really does not approve of the use of finding images labeled for reuse within doing a Google search. And I was able to have a discussion with the students in 8th grade when I showed it to them that that is a search that when you use it, it is one of the things that you can do, but that you do also want to check your image sources beyond just doing the images labeled for reuse search feature. So within that also, we had an interesting discussion with 8th grade students about the connection with the current events and the current Fortnite lawsuit. And that is something that, an area of future growth, I think whenever you find something that students are really engaged and excited about this happening in current events, to capitalize on that in terms of the conversation and depth of conversation that you can really have with them on that. So that's something that I'm hoping for future growth on this issue, to just really develop that a lesson for January that follows up on the initial copyright discussion that we had around the images, but that gets into more of a not black and white, but that gray area of copyright and surrounding the Fortnite and other things in current events. Another area for growth that I'm looking into is Common Sense Media has put out a series of Apple books that do take a look at copyright usage. And so trying to use more strategic lessons throughout the year with 6th, 7th, and 8th grade specifically, that do strategically have students take a closer look at copyright and working with teachers to really decide which of those standards and competencies for students are appropriate to really focus on for each grade level. So that is an area of growth in terms of issues of copyright. So that is the course competency number 3, and it's one that I think is an exciting place for conversation with students, staff, and myself. Course competency number 4 states that I am able to demonstrate the ability to keep current with professional issues and opportunities pertaining to existing and emerging technologies for possible application to teaching and learning. The artifact that I chose for this was my Apple Teacher Certification, where I completed my badges for the iPad. And I chose this one to pursue and is one to demonstrate as my artifact. Our school at Longfellow is an Apple Distinguished School, and part of my role as the library media specialist at Longfellow is to be somebody that really embraces the tools that are available on the iPad and is able to not just use them, but to really be able to visualize and see how they can be used in connection with questions like creativity and connections to the curriculum. And I think that those badges, the actual earning of them is not just, it's not enough, but really to encourage myself and as a self place for growth is to use those tools as often as possible so that they are something that I continue to see their potential and to see how they can be used. Another area with that I chose for an artifact is my PLC, or personal learning community. And for this, one of the things that I tried out this term that ended up being positive was I created a Twitter account on the encouragement of a teacher who is very involved with Twitter, in particular with the Apple teacher community that is on Twitter. And she helped me find some of the Apple community posts and people that would be beneficial to follow in terms of seeing those trends in education as they are coming out. And that is actually how I came across the Apple books for creativity that I delved into, is a large part of my Genius books, my Genius project on the Apple books. And so with that, Twitter, I think I have sort of mixed feelings on social media in terms of it sometimes being a time suck. What I did like about Twitter, because I don't have a lot of other people that I'm following that are not related to technology and education, is that Twitter feed was able to become something that was really just focused on technology, as opposed to like a Facebook feed or an Instagram feed where I maybe have a grandmother and a mother and all of those other people that are on those feeds. So I found Twitter to be a great place to just have technology. Sorry about that break. I actually find it kind of funny because I was just talking about how these different social network feeds is that if all of our life's things are combined, it is not as effective as a tool for professional learning. And I think that that's really a good point, is to really find those places in the social network where it can be more of a professional activity, and those places that are more something that you're looking to keep up with family and or friends on. So with that, I also found that is an area of growth, just continuing with those skills. The school district of La Crosse has budgeted this year for middle school and high school teachers to have half-day meeting times for professional learning and community. And I found those meetings to be particularly helpful in terms of sharing of resources. And one of the things that we'll do at these meetings is discuss different digital tools that are helpful. We've been choosing a genre area in which one of the members on the team feels that they are flabby in or weak in, and we have all been reading some books from that area, and that has been a great way to collaborate with colleagues. We had a discussion at our last meeting about how beneficial the Goodreads website is, which I've been a member for about a year, but we had a discussion about how that site in particular, since the reviews of the books are ones that are mostly put out there by young individuals who are reading them, that's really a great way for us to use that information to help choose books that will move off of the shelves. Sometimes the reviews put out there that are more of an adult read or put out there by Mackin or Follett don't necessarily take as much into consideration the students' votes on particular books. So that is a resource that I already knew about, but because of my professional learning community, was able to consider its value in a different way. The fifth core is competency space that I can identify and provide potential solutions to technology problems. And I chose two very different artifacts for this course competency. The first one is media placeholders. And I think that one shows more of a smaller issue helping give a technology tip to teachers, although it does take the larger issue of whether teachers, I think sometimes when we are choosing to use, say, for example, a Pages or a Google Docs, that we do really think about what one platform can do better than the other one, or why we are using one rather than the other. And I think as a library media specialist, it's important for me to be able to help teachers and students be able to use both the Google platform as well as the Apple platform, but to understand some of the strengths and be able to encourage both teachers and students to step outside of their comfort zones here and there and to try a new platform such as Pages and to kind of see what it can do for them. And I do think that within Pages, the templates are a particularly effective tool for being able to have a different level of artistic graphic design in a really quick, efficient way that the Google Docs and the Google Suite doesn't have available. And for my second artifact, I chose my genius project of using Apple Books for teaching tech. And I think that in this one, I really did move into a larger scale problem solving. I think there's some problem solving that we do with technology that are quick, something like how can I fix this kid's iPad? It is not allowing voice in it. So being able to solve those quick problems, but sometimes in order to be more of a leader with technology, both school and district wide, we're looking at those problems with technology that are larger questions in terms of, for example, allowing access to Apple Books for students and being able to have those philosophical questions of, why we would limit students' access to those, and how can we also educate students in terms of what's appropriate for them to download and what isn't, and how we can create a culture where intellectual freedom is really valued for our students and staff. So that's something that I worked with our technology assistant, who is a colleague that spends part of every Tuesday over at Longfellow, and he helped me work through some of the technology issues just to get Apple Books up and running so that we could create a lesson where students could experience the Apple Books, and we had really great success with that lesson. And at our district technology committee meeting last week on Thursday, I took more of an advocacy role in order to promote and to ask the questions and have a discussion about opening up that access. And this is something that I think was successful. It does look like our technology director is going to see what he can do to help create that access to students for the Apple Books. So that's something that I feel like is successful, that I took something that I saw as being a problem, and other teachers were also struggling with the limited access with the Apple Books, and was able to look into the issues surrounding it and to give it a test run through my Genius project, and to hopefully on the other end come out with a better solution to an accessibility to a great resource. That is the completion of my course competencies and this podcast. It was really nice to have a conversation with you, and I look forward to having a podcast with you at some point in the future. Thanks, and enjoy the rest of your weekend.